Hello, everybody. Welcome to module 3 again. The topic was linking psychology concepts with applications, and today we'll discuss the second unit, which is information processing in sports context. As you know, I'm Dr. Deepak, scientist, Department of Sports Psychology, Sports Thought of India, Neeraj Subhash National Institute of Sports, Patiala. So, when we talk of information processing is a very broad concept, and it has got several theories. It starts from a technical description of our sense organs, and then progresses to some uh, computer developed models of how we process the information. So I will restrict my talk to uh, how this information processing is applied in sports. How while practicing sports psychology we use information processing. Okay, so I will start describing. I will start telling you about the uses of information processing in terms of the equipment which are being used at the highly developed centers all over India, and how information processing is involved in these equipments. So the first equipment that is very widely used all over the world actually is the neurobiofeedback. So we have a 8-channel neurobiofeedback with us. So this equipment, as you can see in the presentation, is used to provide both on and off field feedback and trained to regulate the level of arousal related to athletes' important biological parameters. Okay, so means biofeedback. Why the name biofeedback is there? Because it gives a feedback about our biological parameters. So feedback about biological parameters. And so, what biological parameters? When we think of all of the most of the problems of sports psychology that is related to arousal, stress, anxiety, or anything. So there are always two components of all the problems. One is a cognitive component, and another is a physiological component. Okay, so our anxiety, our stress, our arousal shows shows equally in both components. We have a cognitive element of an anxiety, and apart from that, we have a physiological element of anxiety. So, since this cognitive element is not something to be very much worried unless it is too high, so we we try to focus more upon the physiological elements. So because physiological elements is something which if goes out of a certain limit will have a detrimental effect on the performance all the time. So the biological parameters which are involved are in conditions of stress or aggression or anxiety. The biological parameters which are involved are our heart rate, our this muscle tension, our brain waves, our body temperature, our GSR. So these are all the biological parameters. Our skin conductance, everything. So these are the biological parameters which respond to conditions of stress, arousal, anxiety. So this machine is used to measure the level of these biological parameters and biological parameters and train the athlete to regulate these parameters over a period of time. So over a period of time. Now, if this is the 8-channel neurobiofeedback, this can be used two ways. One is that the subject relaxes in a this relaxation room kind of setup, and another is it is telemetry supported, so that you can use it on field also. It can be attached to the dress of an athlete and attached to the dress of an athlete, and the data can be seen on a laptop from a distance of around 20-25 meters. So it is telemetry supported, so it can be used both on and off field. Okay. Another, this is the most uh, most accurate one kind of device. Another one which is being used in sports is the wearable biofeedback devices. Wearable biofeedback devices. So these devices are this is also another version of the device we saw in the last slide, and the difference between the two is it can be it is wearable, so it is not sensor attached, and it can be like in the picture you can see it is strapped on the finger, and it is Android device control. So it can be worn by the player while practicing, and it is Bluetooth supported. So from a distance of 50 to 60 meters, the recordings can be taken on an Android phone. So the psychologist, even the psychologist need not be there. The whole recording will be there on the Android phone, and it can be seen later on. So this kind of, but one limitation with this kind of devices is the parameters are limited in these variable ones, and the one we saw in the last slide was a comprehensive one, which includes most of the parameters which are required. Okay, so now how it is being used is how it is being used, how information processing is involved in it. Is we have to, what we do, like training, while training, the what happens to we are not concerned with what is the level, we are not much concerned with what is the level of the these parameters we are talking about. The thing I am concerned with is the player should be able to maintain a certain level throughout his performance. He should be able to maintain a certain level throughout his performance. It should not be fluctuating. I don't want fluctuations there. Okay, so I train the athlete to maintain the level. I will train with certain exercises. I will train with maybe some relaxation techniques will be taught. Maybe some other things will be taught. Some other exercises will be taught. So to maintain the level of arousal at a certain level, okay, that is okay. But if, like, maybe in sports it is not like the player can perform the whole game on a fixed level of arousal. It has to be deferred. Like sometimes you want to accelerate, sometimes you want to de-accelerate according to the nature of the game. In some other games there are stages, so you have to play the game according to the demand of the stage. So maybe if you are already in a winning position, you want to maintain that level of arousal. If you want to maintain that level of arousal, if you are in a draw kind of situation, you want to accelerate the level of arousal. You want to if so accordingly you have to work upon these parameters. So what we can do is this biofeedback, what we try to do is mimic the requirement of energy of the game. Mimic the requirement of the energy level of the game. Like if I want to accelerate, if I want the player to train on an accelerated level of arousal, so I can put the player on a treadmill and fix the speed of the treadmill according to the energy requirement of the game level. Okay, so maybe the energy level I want is maybe 10 kilometers per hour. The energy level is making 10 kilometers per hour. So I will train the athletes on a 10 kilometer per hour speed to maintain the level of arousal. Now, being in a relaxed condition, you are very easily able to maintain a level of arousal. That is also not very easy. If you train in real conditions, it is not very easy to do. But still, in a relaxed condition, it is okay. But at 10 kilometers, 10 kilometers per hour speed, it is bit tougher. And then if you want to further accelerate, you can increase the speed of the treadmill. If you want to de-accelerate, you can decrease the speed of the treadmill. So what I want is mimic the level of energy at a certain level, mimic the level of energy, and train the player to maintain the level of arousal at that energy level. Okay, so means the thing which player sees, I can go for n number of calculations while seeing a biofeedback speed, but the thing which player sees is just his, means he can even not see his graph. There are sounds coming out of this biofeedback device. So if you are able to if you are able to maintain the level of arousal, there is a pleasant sound coming. But if you are not able to maintain the level of arousal, there will be a nice kind of sound coming. So the player can make out from a distance that am I able to maintain the level of arousal or not. So it is going that way. Then, so how information processing is in, as I described the equipment, you must have noticed that how information processing is involved in this thing. So it, it enables an individual to learn how to change maladaptive physiological activity and correct dysfunctional autonomic nervous system activity. So we got involved in the nervous system activity. That's how information processing models work. That we start from the sense organ, we go to the nervous system activities, and then we talk of the outward expression of these activities. Then scientific, as I told you, the feedback about the biological parameters. They get a feedback about the level of their biological parameters, and they can regulate it further. So holistic is the player in the process. Player gets, it's not like means sometimes the strategies we tell while training, the strategies we tell while training are not like always going to work. Okay, but while training for the training with the biofeedback, it is the player's own internal learning. He learns how, while doing the thing, he can hear the sound and he can find out that the level has got disturbed now and the level has got stable now. So he learns in the process that what he has done because of which the level got disturbed, and again what he did because of which the level got stabilized. So there is a holistic learning that what he will do, what he will do to stabilize the thing, and what activity is going to destabilize the level of arousal. So he will come to know about disturbance in level of arousal beforehand doing an activity. So if he is going for an activity, he will before performing that activity, he will understand that it is going to disturb his level of arousal, and he will start his body will internally start some mechanism to maintain the level of arousal. And resilience, so in the resilience, the same thing, resilience part comes that he will understand to self-regulate. He will understand to self-regulate. He gains awareness about what is going on in his parts of body. He becomes mindful. So all this are there in this biofeedback. So this is the information processing context of biofeedback. The various sensors which are used are this brainwave sensors to monitor brain activity, breathing sensors to monitor the heart rate and monitor the breathing, heart rate variability, heart rate per heart rate, muscle tension, then sweat glands, the sweat glands activity, and then temperature. So one thing which has been noticed through practice in this through practice with this biofeedback is when we are using it in laboratory, heart rate variability will be the sensor that will be most effective for training. No other sensor like EMG or sweat glands or temperature. These all are not that effective while the person is doing the thing in laboratory. It may be it will be active on field, but in the laboratory the heart rate sensor will be active. And apart from that, if you can go to the brainwave level, that brainwave activity will also be one effective one. But what we need to take care of is we need to use the sensors one by one. We cannot put all the sensor at once. It is very hard to handle even one sensor for quite some time for an athlete, because these sensors are very much sensitive. So we have to go one by one with all the sensors, and we have to be very much cautious about what kind of sensors are being used, because no such sensors should be used which are not which are not proved effective in training with athletes. So one by one, and then increasing the complexity. Maybe once you use one sensor, then after some time when the player is able to handle that sensor, after some time you add it with another, then you can add it with another. So gradually you can add and change the training programs. So that's how this information processing is involved in this biofeedback device. Then the other, then the another one more important machine that is being used is Vienna test system sports. So this equipment is used to assess various game related skills like time movement anticipation, peripheral perception, alertness, reactive stress tolerance, choice decision making, and personality. So this is one device which is used to evaluate game specific skills. So if means like some game has got different kind of games has got different requirements of the skill. So we can choose the skills and we can do testing for a specific game, specific skill over this machine. So this is Vienna test system sports. Now, how this Vienna test system sports? Okay, I forgot to show you the video of biofeedback. I will take you through that once, and then I will start discussing about this Vienna test system. Give me 1 minute. So this is the use of the biofeedback I was talking about, and we can see it from here. Yes. So here you will see the active use of the detailed one biofeedback machine. The player is doing shadow practice, and the biofeedback is strapped to his dress, and he's doing all the movement. And this is the version where it is being done in a relaxed state, and the player is getting trained with this. So that was how we use the biofeedback. That was a very short video about biofeedback. Then we talked of this VTS. So VTS Vienna test system sports we are talking about. So how information processing is involved in this machine in this testing. You will see that all the equipment which are now being used in sports psychology are completely information processing based. You can see how the skills are being practiced. So there are different modules I was talking about, and you can set the skills according to the game demand. So one module is Cognitron. So Cognitron module is for assessment of attention concentration. Please note that it is done through comparison of figures with regard to their congruence. So information processing, you have to you have certain figures and you have to compare for congruence. So that is information processing involved. Determination module is for measurement of reactive stress tolerance, attention, reaction speed. Okay, so it requires in situations requiring continuous shift and varying responses to rapidly changing visual and acoustic stimuli. So here what you what kind of stimulus will be given? There will be changing visual and acoustic stimuli in the machine on the screen you saw. So there will be changing visual and acoustic stimuli, and it will be changing in different patterns. So the respondent has to respond accordingly. So that's how it is done. Then peripheral perception test. So access the perception processing of peripheral visual information. So there will be lights and activity going on the screen, and there will be lights going on around the this head of the respondent, and he has to respond to both the lights and the thing moving on the screen. Then reaction time test, as you know, reaction time, how it is done. Then sensory motor coordination. So how it is done? Uh, to assess the coordination of eye, hand, foot by maneuvering a circular segment that moves on its own about a three-dimensional room. Now there will be a three-dimensional room, and the circular segment will be moving around in a predetermined mode. So it gets very tough to get it stabilized at a certain place. So that is how this sensory motor coordination test is being done. Then this perception attention functions for sub functions of attention, and then time movement anticipation, movement of object in a space. So the activity is there will be a ball dropping down. You have to find out at which point of time it will reach where and to what distance. So there is the the whole equipment, and in fact, all the equipments I'm going to talk about are based on information processing, where some kind of a stimulus is being stimuluses are being provided, and the subject is expected to process the information and react accordingly. So that's how information processing has progressed so far. Now I'll show you another video of this how this neuro tracker is being how this VTS is being used. So you can see there are actually two modes of this neuro tracker. One is one is so as you saw in the video, this neuro tracker, there are two modes of function. One is uh, it is done with a 3D glass, where the respondent can stand at a distance from the projector, and the stimulus is projected on this wall or something, and the respondent can see it in 3D. So, and the how we are involving information processing in that device is we can make the respondent do any kind of activity. There is n number of activity depending upon the creativity of the uh, scientist who is doing it. So some you can make him do while playing football. You can make him do while doing some hockey drill. You can make him do while doing a shadow practice of any game or any other balance activity or whatever activity you want to involve. So you have to what we are doing is we are trying to create a we are trying to synthesize an environment that is like doing a virtual reality kind of activity. So virtual reality, when we talk, this is a very popular word nowadays. Virtual reality is a very popular word nowadays. But actually, what virtual reality is, we can create the environment in our laboratory, whatever environment we want. If facilities are there, we can create the environment. Or we can mimic the we can mimic the requirements of the actual environment with some other devices and make the player perform in the environment. We can set different kind of game situations and make him perform the activity while doing performing the game. So this kind of information processing tasks are used. And then another mode is you must have seen a head mounted device was there, HDMI. So the Neo Tracker is used with that HDMI also, where the player can sit and respond on a computer. So that is how this Neuro Tracker is done. Sorry, it was BTS. I I I I, I mistakenly showed you a video of Neuro Tracker. Okay, so Neuro Tracker, we have talked of Neuro Tracker. Now I'll show you the video for this BTS. Just a minute. So this is how this BTS is done. This is the peripheral perception test. You can see the lights moving around the eyesight of the person, and he is trying to focus on a ball moving on the screen. So both of the activities are going. So he can focus on the ball with his hands. There are knobs he has to move to focus on the ball, and there are paddles in the foot. So for responding to the lights, he has to press the pedal and move the ball with his hand. So whole body is involved in this activity, and that's how information, multisensory information is being provided so that it can mimic the game requirement. So that was about BTS. Now Neuro Tracker, I already shown you the video. Now I'll describe how it is, what it is actually. So this equipment is used to train athletes in a 3D environment for all aspects of attention, organizing, planning, prioritizing, cognitive stamina, situational awareness, visual information processing, and working memory. So as you could see, the whole task is about, you must have seen there, the whole task is about there are a number of balls moving on the screen in a 3D environment. Initially, depending on the task, a number of balls will be highlighted, that these balls, out of maybe there are 10 balls, and out of those only 2 balls are highlighted, and then the highlighting is gone, the ball starts moving randomly, and after a certain period the balls stop, and the player has to tell which were the balls which started moving in the beginning. So the whole task is just this. Now it will be in such a varied manner that it demands a lot of cognitive and information processing work. So what are the basic? I'll show you the basic ones. And so there is a selective attention profile in this Neuro Tracker. So selective attention profile, what it does is it determines a user's optimal number of targets. So optimal number of targets. So it will start with a single ball, then 2 balls, then 3 balls. Okay, and optimal number of balls will be identified through this selective attention profile. Okay, so it starts from 20 trials at 2 targets. 20 trials at 2 targets. 2 targets means there will be 2 balls in the whole screen, and they have to track the 2 balls through the 20 trials. Okay, and all the trials will be there for couple of seconds, like it will be 5 to 7 seconds kind of thing. So depending upon their performance, it may go lower, like 20 trials at 1 target. If the performance is okay, then it will lead to 10 trials at 3 targets, or if performance is good, it can lead to 10 trials at 3 targets, and then 10 trials at 4 targets. So It will determine the user's optimal number of targets. It is there to determine the user's optimum how many targets he can effectively identify. So this is selective attention profile. Then if it is able to do, if this test is done for some period of time, it is called core actually. So 3 core trials are required to move to sustained attention profile. What this sustained attention profile is doing, this test analyzes core baseline sessions to set up fixed tracking speed. The tracking speed, like tracking, how the tracking speed means, there will be a tracking speed. The boss will start moving at a tracking speed initially. If you are successfully able to find the targets, the tracking speed will increase. If you are further successful, the tracking speed will keep on increasing. But if you fail to find out the target, the tracking speed will decrease. The speed will keep on decreasing. So over a period of over a period of trials, the machine will find out what is your optimal tracking speed. So your fixed tracking speed there will be there, and the number of targets you could effectively identify from the selective attention test, so that will be there. So fixed tracking speed and number of targets are a 20 trial test. 20 trials will be there with this. Okay. So in this profile, only tracking duration changes. Okay. So what the tracking speed will be fixed at this speed, the boss will keep moving at fixed speed, and there will be the number of targets will be fixed according to your optimal performance. Now, what will happen? The means depending upon your success with the trial, the duration of the trial will keep on increasing. If you are successful, the trial duration increase by 1 second. If you are not successful, the trial duration will decrease by 1 second. So that is how how long you can hold on your attention. How long you can hold on your attention, that will be decided in this sustained attention profile. The next one is attention stamina profile. Selective attention profile, then sustained attention profile. Now it comes to attention stamina profile. So what it determines is how long the user can maintain neural tracking at threshold level. His threshold level was his tracking speed and the number of targets, and how long he could how long he could do it. So how long a user can maintain neuro tracking at threshold level, and a user's overall neuro tracking ability in attention robustness. So what is his overall neuro tracking ability? So the stamina profile fixes the speed and number of targets according to the user's baseline system. Speed and number of targets are fixed. Speed and number of targets are fixed. Then to standardize the test, duration is also fixed at 8 seconds. So the tracking duration is also fixed 8 seconds for 8 seconds with specific speed and number of targets. Okay. So how long the person is able to do it? How long? For how many trials? If you keep on succeeding at successive trials, then the number of trials will keep on increasing, so that you can find out the attention stamina of the person. What is his overall neuro tracking ability? Overall neuro tracking ability. What is his overall neuro tracking ability at the threshold? His threshold was what was his maximum speed? What was his maximum number of balls? So that's how this is, and you can notice the whole device is based on information processing. Whole device is based on information processing. It is using very simple tasks. All the tasks are very simple. So there is means on the player's end, there is not much not much technology involved. The technology involved for the psychologist and the people who have developed this thing. But for the player, the task is very simple. That's how information processing is getting used. And the next one is sports vision trainer. Sports vision trainer. This equipment is used to assist and train eye-hand coordination and decision-making skills. Okay. Again, there are certain modes in which it works. The modes are proactive, reactive, random. So these are the modes it work. So I will I will show you a video of this one also, so that you can get to know how this machine works. Okay. So you could see that the activity was about tapping some lights which were coming on one by one, and the player had to tap. So there are modes. So if the definition of if we try to look upon the definition of what is eye-hand coordination, it is simply information processing. It is a perceptual motor skill involving the integration and processing in central nervous system of visual and tactile information. Okay, so visual and tactile information is being processed in the central nervous system, so that purposeful motor movements can be made. So it is whole information processing, that visual and tactile information is being processed in the central nervous system, and then motor movements are being made. It is the ability to see and react within milliseconds to people and objects moving at different speeds and through different trajectories, whether in direct line sight or on the visual periphery. So milliseconds means the now coming back to the SVT, there are modes of how it works. One is proactive mode, second is reactive mode, and third is reactive random time interval mode. So proactive mode is the light will be coming one by one, but the next light will only come when you tap the last one. If you don't tap the last one, the next light won't come. So that is the proactive mode. Reactive mode, even if you don't tap the light, the next light will come. And reactive random time interval. So in the proactive and reactive mode, what happens? The time interval between the two lights is fixed. But in the random time interval mode, what will happen? The time interval will keep on shifting. These three modes also have these three are one-handed modes. Then if we add simultaneous with it, it will become a two-handed mode. So proactive simultaneous, reactive simultaneous, and reactive random time interval simultaneous. So there you have to use two hands. Okay. The average time which is given is around 450 milliseconds. 450 milliseconds. That is quite less, and lot of people of our caliber cannot react at that speed. So what happens if 20 lights are given, almost 50 are missed. Okay, so you have to have that much reaction time, and then another decision making mode is also involved in it, where reactive go no go lights are given. Reactive go no go, so the lights will be going on one by one, but there were two different kinds. Maybe the red light you don't have to tap, and the green light you have to tap. So you have to also be careful of what light has come on, so that you can leave it a tap. And then reactive random go no go, again the time difference will be there, the time interval will be different, and again go no go kind of setup will be there. So all the all the equipments which have been described are the machines which are exclusively being used, like this SVT we are talking about. And this SVT is very much in use by many international boxer. Like you must have heard the name of Vasil Lomachenko. He has been a world champion in three weight categories, almost three weight categories. He has been a world champion, and he has been using this SBT. So it can be either be placed on a table, it can be even hanged on a wall. So the setup can be made like that. Maybe the players are sparring, and in between the sparring session, you can ask them to move to the SBT and respond to it. So that the physical element and cognitive elements are both mixed up in the practices. So that's how we have to use it creatively, and as much we can put the brain to work, as much we can put the brain to as much work, that much effective it will be for the athlete. So that's how information processing is being used. Information processing is applied in sports. And um, you can go back to the theories of information processing, and find out what kind of concepts are there, and how these concepts are getting applied to these equipments. In case of when you try to read on that, if you have any queries, you can always come back to me, and we can have a discussion about what the thing was and how we can um, discuss it. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your patient listening.